Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Are You In? Now, today and next week, I'll be talking about two albums from 2017 that I didn't get to listen to until after I put out my list. And now, by listening to them, I would have put in my top 50. So I would like to take this time, the next 2 weeks, to talk about them. So the first one I would like to talk about is Portugal the Man's newest album entitled Woodstock. Now, for those of you who don't know who Portugal the Man are, they are a indie alternative psychedelic rock band from Wasilla, Alaska. Definitely the first band from Alaska that I've ever really known or have talked about. So that's a check mark off the list. And the members include John Baldwin Gurley on vocals, guitar, organ, and drum machines, Zachary Scott Carothers on bass guitar and backing vocals, Kyle O'Quinn on keyboards, synthesizers, guitar, and backing vocals, Eric Hauk on guitar and backing vocals, Jason Sickrist on drums, and Zoe Manville on vocals and percussion. They've had a decent amount of albums previously, including Waiter, You Vultures in 2006, Church Mouth in 2007, Censored Colors in 2008, The Satanic Satanists in 2009, American Ghetto in 2010, In the Mountain, In the Cloud in 2011, and Evil Friends in 2013. Now, I have heard of this band by name before. Never really listened to them. If you haven't heard this band, you probably know of their hit single from last year called Feel It Still. Even if you don't know it by name, if I played it for you, you probably have heard it. It's a very funky song and a very catchy song that I heard basically everywhere. And, after hearing it and after, really thinking about it after my top 50 list, it was like, why did I not listen to this album? Especially with one that had such a hit single. So I took the time, and here's what I have to say about it. First off, in terms of the pros, the biggest strength is the versatility. You can go through the whole entire CD, and there's only a couple songs that sound similar to each other. And that's very, very powerful for a CD that is so short. It's only 38, 39 minutes, 10 songs. And that's a big strength that you're not really feeling like, this is a quick CD, but each song has its own, for the most part, identity. A lot kind of like Queens of the Stone Age, where all of the 9 songs had its own kind of style. And I really, really personally like that from a group. The biggest, the singles themselves are very strong. You got 6 singles on this CD. You have Feel It Still, Live in the Moment, Rich Friends, So Young, Noise Pollution, and the last one being Keep On. And each of them have their own little style. I mean, we can definitely talk about each one of the 6. First off, Feel It Still, the hit single, where it's very funky, with a cool bass line, cool drum parts, a saxophone section at parts. And the nice thing about it being it's simplistic, and it gives Gorley the opportunity to float his falsetto over everything. It's nice. It gives the lines themselves a space to breathe. And it's a short song. It's a quick song that, never ever says it's welcome. It's not even 3 minutes. And it's really just a nice single, and one to get you hooked onto the rest of the CD. The lyrics themselves talk about his daughter and trying to grow up in the world now and fighting for freedom and peace and all that stuff, so that that her generation can live a life of less turmoil. So it's a cool little song with a nice little message. And then you got the other ones, including Live in the Moment, which has drums that are or much more powerful and remind you a lot of Black Skinhead from Kanye West's Yeezus album. Though I personally think that this song is a little bit more interesting, not necessarily lyrically, but musically. It has a nice chill feel, even though you have these very powerful drums that are just keep on moving. And the melody is cool. The chorus, vocals and harmonies are very nice. And the message itself, it gets kind of muddled. It kind of seems like it's talking about living in the moment and, well, of course, but, living the way that you want to and not being confined by what history has told you or what religion has told you. And like there's a little part in there that you can look at it in a couple different ways depending on how you're looking at this album. There's a line that goes, "Your family swinging from the branches of a tree, God only knows, we don't need ghost stories." So I kind of see it in two different ways. One which was my first thought, and the second one which was one that the people on Genius brought up. So the first way I look at it is it's kind of like a shot at religion, which is talking about, we don't need the ghost stories of the past to tell us tell us how to live, which is basically saying that the Bible are just full of ghost stories, and the other part being like your family swinging from the branches of a tree could be an image of apes and stuff like that, and talking about evolution, which is something that certain religious people have tried to debunk over the years. So that could just be a shot at religion in general. The other way of looking at it is if you're looking at the idea of Woodstock and talking about fighting for freedom in every different aspect, it could be looking at the idea of lynching in the South because your family is swinging from a tree, being someone being lynched, and that being the catalyst of the civil rights movement and stuff like that. And that's another way of looking at it. It's like God only knows we don't need ghost stories because real life is just as horrifying as the ghost stories that people try to create. So another interesting song talking about fighting for freedom in general. And then the other singles, Rich Friends, talking about it's more of a tongue-in-cheek song, talking about finding a friend who can really help you through the times with having fun, having this rich and powerful person to be able to be friends with, so you can do all this debauchery and just ridiculous nature. And the music itself is fun. The drums are cool. It's a little bit sparse in the music, it's a little bit simplistic, but it works for the song. And it's another song that never overstays its welcome. The harmonies and the chorus are very interesting, and just an overall fun song that just shows the versatility of this CD. You also have Keep On, which feels a little bit more on the rock side of everything. Less hip hop kind of feel, less that type of indie feel. It's more, if I could call it alternative surfer rock, I think that would be the best way of calling it. Very more focused on the guitar parts rather than the electronic parts. And it's a fun song, and kind of whimsical at points. Some nice imagery, though I can't tell if it's Gorley singing on it or if it's Manville singing on it. And that's just, I think, just a thing of how both of their voices are very similar, that you can barely tell which way or another. Sometimes on this album, there is one interesting line in this particular song that I don't understand necessarily why it's in there, unless it's one particular reason, which I think it's because of the message of the song that I kind of see. So the line is, "Young, black, and gifted, never lose, gotta be the shoes. That old money privilege got me confused. What is it you do?" And I think it's a nice little allegory to how people are portrayed in the media. Talking about how if you are young and black, if you are talented, as an African American or a minority, it's usually because it's other things that got you there. Got to be the shoes, not the fact that you are talented yourself. Whereas a lot of people growing up in old money tend to quote it's because of, or who come from old money tend to quote that it's their work that they've done rather than, you know, the work of others and them being privileged enough to be able to have that. So I think it's an interesting line, and I think it ties well with what I think the meaning of the song being, which is, I think it's, someone dealing with all the hypocrisies in the world, and so much that they're actually banging their head against the wall because of it, trying to deal with all the ridiculousness that this world brings, and it kind of works very well with the whimsicalness of the surfer rock. The only thing that's weird to me about this particular song is the music videos, and I really like the music videos for almost all of these songs. They're creative, they're interesting. So far, with Live in the Moment, you have this video of a car chase where they have big foam, big paper mache models of humans, and one of them is a mall cop, and the other one is someone that may or may not have stolen something. So I think it's a funny little music video. I think you would like it as well. Feel It Still has this a little bit more of a I don't know how to explain it more. It's a very surreal music video, if you will. One of those ones that don't necessarily make a lot of sense, but has a lot of imagery in it. I don't know. It's not my favorite one, but it's still a pretty cool one. Then you have Rich Friends, and it stars Dennis from Always Sunny, and basically how it works is that it's basically like if you were on a website and there's all these little pop-up ads, and it's Dennis always, and it's Dennis and this lady always shilling for some ad for some product, and they all tie in eventually together, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a really cool way of how everything works together in this particular video. The only one, and going back to Keep On, the only one that I don't really like is that one, because it's just really, really weird. It's very uncomfortable in parts. Not for any imagery. It's just the particular character is in a black leather suit, and it's just animated, and it has all these weird things, and it just feels off the whole entire time, which is weird for the whimsical nature of this particular song. But that's just a small thing. Then there's two other singles, which is So Young, which this one reminds me a lot of Electric Guest. And I'll get to them in a minute about this particular CD, personally. This song, again, it's another one that has a little bit sparse in the instrumentation. The drums aren't that, aren't as present as well as the bass line, though that just gives room for the flowing guitar lines and the flowing vocals, and that's where the main strength of this song is, and just the flowingness of everything. And it's an interesting song. Talking again, it's another one, kind of talking about living life, and there's another particular line in there that I personally like from this album, which is one that just sticks with me. Is I'm just looking for a friend. I don't need another lover, which is an interesting idea to think about, in an idea of so young, because as we're young, we don't necessarily need to always friends are usually there, right? Lovers are usually the problem. It's usually later in life that the lover's there, but the friends tend to drift away, if you will. So that's where I think that's very interesting. And one that personally I'm looking for lovers more than friends right now. So it's a very interesting reversal, if you will, because I feel like a lot of songs deal with, okay, we have friends, we're looking for a lover, So lyrics are interesting. flow very well, and it's just another chill song in comparison to everything else that's going on. The only single that I don't really personally like as much is Noise Pollution. It's a weird sound. Um, it's a little bit more electronic, um, indie, if you will, and it's just an interesting song in general. It's a cool idea about talking about media and about fake news and about information and being able to have it instantaneously while also feeling numb to the information that you have. And the lyrics and the sound work very well. It just feels weird because it's the last song on the album, and it like out of all the other songs, it just doesn't tie that very well in to everything else in terms of sound. Like it feels weird for it to be the last song. It would work so much better if it's maybe the first song or somewhere in the middle. But a way of ending your CD, it just feels a little bit weird. Though it's a solid song with some interesting ideas. You have French lyrics at point, which I think are cool because I study French. I have studied the French language, and it's really cool when people throw that in. It's a plus for me. So those particular 6 songs, very versatile, very strong on the album. The problem that arises is the other 4 songs. Not to say that they're bad, it's just they're not as memorable as the other 6. And that's not a huge problem, except for the fact that they're bunched together. So it's the first 2 songs, and then it's the 8th and 9th song on the album. 3 through 7, solid. 10 is Noise Pollution, not as great, but still a solid song. But when they're bunched together, that becomes a problem. And that's why I can't fully recommend the whole entire CD. The other 4 songs are cool, just not as memorable. And there is one weird one, if you will, only because of if you take the idea of Woodstock. Number 1, the first song on the album is cool. It has a laid back sound to it, and it does use a sample of the first song from Woodstock, from the Woodstock performance, which is Richie Havens' song "Freedom," and it's on like the intro parts of the song, and it's cool to be able to tie the idea of Woodstock into this. The idea of fighting for music, fighting for change, and trying to compare it to now. And for the most part, that's why it's a cool song, because it's tying generations together. The only problem and the biggest thing that I see from this CD is not all of this CD is about Woodstock, and not the concert itself, the idea of what Woodstock brought, and trying to bring it into the future. Of course, there are some songs talking about that, like we have said, and there are songs talking about the idea of childhood, which I guess they grew up closer to that than we did. But when you because of that, it kind of muddles the I guess the message of the CD, if you will. Maybe I haven't understood it close enough, and maybe that's just me. But for me personally, I think that some of these songs just don't flow into that narrative, and because of that, you have a confusing theme to the CD, if you will. That's not to say this is a bad CD. I really like it. I would have put it in my top 50. I don't know where I would place it. The one I can closely compare it to is Plural by Electric Guest. I would say that I was looking for more of the versatility from this CD from Electric Guest. Though I do like more of the songs. I think there are stronger songs on that, or more memorable songs on Plural, and I think the consistency on that album is a little bit better. I like the versatility on this album more, and it's interesting enough to bring up Electric Guest because Asa Takane, from Electric Guest, is one of the producers on this particular CD, as well as Danger Mouse. And Danger Mouse has worked with Electric Guest, so all of it comes full circle. So you definitely hear a lot of their influences on this album. Now, I don't know if that means that they have worked on other albums of Portugal the Man, but it makes me interested in more Portugal the Man. So I definitely, I don't know if I can recommend it in terms of Portugal the Man fans, because I don't know the rest of their discography. I want to listen to it, and maybe I can give you a better answer at some other point in time if I do some sort of dissecting the discography. But in general, I do recommend it to alternative fans and indie fans. I think it's a very solid album, and I think the singles push it over the top. And you know, even these weaker songs aren't as much of a problem because they don't mostly overstay their welcomes. They do have their flaws, and some of them are, you know, 4 minutes. But you know, for the most part, other than a little bit of a hiccup, they're not bad songs. They're just not as memorable. I think the singles carry this very well, and even if you just want to listen to track 3 to track 7, that's a solid 5 songs on this album. So I recommend at least the album to alternative and indie rock fans. As for everybody else trying to get into it, I would say listen to track 3 to track 7, which is Live in the Moment, Feel It Still, Rich Friends, Keep On, and So Young. If you just listen to those 5, you'll get a good idea of the album, and then see where you want to go from there. But I can't fully recommend it to someone who's not in that type of mindset. But still, an awesome CD. I probably would have put it. I probably would have put it in, you know, maybe in the top 30, which is still pretty good because there were some solid stuff in the top 10, top 20. It just misses it because of some of those weaker songs. However, the next CD I'm going to talk about in terms of 2017, which will be next Wednesday, is a CD that I may put in my top 10 or maybe even my top 5 of albums last year. Now, that's something for you to latch on to. But until then, you know, of course, like this video if you enjoy what I'm talking about. Comment on albums you would like me to review, or things I can do better. Share this with your friends. Subscribe to my channel so you can see more of the stuff I do, and just keep on being updated with the stuff that I do. Now, the rest of the week, I'm going to try a cover song on Friday and a Are You In from 2018 for Sunday. So keep an eye out for those, and I will see you then. Peace.